Hi, and thanks for joining me. My name's Paul Ward, and first of all, obviously, as everyone wants to, hello there, my name's Paul Ward. Just want to first start off by saying thank you for the organisers for inviting me to present at the NLP Global Summit. It's fantastic to be sharing some of my learnings with you. So I want to thank you as well for spending the time listening to me and the presentation that now follows. And I guess one of the easiest ways of describing me and what I do and almost setting up ready for the presentation itself is to just kind of talk to you a little bit about my past. Now, I'm not going to bore you by going into all the details of my past, but more specifically, how I ended up becoming an NLP trainer, a coach, and somebody who uses those skills combined with a tool I use called Motivational Maps. How I use those tools to be able to help people move towards what it is that they want in their lives, in their business, their relationships, and let's face it, in every area of life. And it brings me back to some 15, 20 years ago, when I was in a different life to what I am now. And by that I say a different life, I mean what I was doing for my career. I was in retail management. And up until this point, about 15 odd years ago, I'd been taking the steps towards what I felt was the right thing to do. In other words, I didn't really have a plan. Every time I got promoted to a bigger, better position, I thought to myself, this is it. This must be where I now start behaving like a grown-up and start putting some money to one side and buying the things that you're meant to buy when you're a grown-up, doing the things that you're meant to be doing. And I never felt fulfilled. And I was just going through the motions all of the time. And then I started to pick up personal development books and started to read quite a lot about these things called visions. And not only about visions, but actually setting and creating your vision. And at the time, I thought, well, actually, it's out of my control. Other people will decide for me when I'll get promoted, when I'll be able to take the next opportunity. All I can do is deliver what my father, the advice he gave me when I first started work was, get yourself a job, keep your head down, and hope you don't get noticed. And let's be honest, since then, I've done the exact opposite. But back in the retail days, when I was working in management, I was kind of working with lots and lots of different people, and I realized that wasn't going to work for me. So I was reading these personal development books and constantly thinking, there must be something else. What am I missing here? Then I stumbled across those three letters that we're all here for throughout this summit, which was NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. I came across them whilst reading these personal development books. And I was in a course for aspiring store managers, those that were looking to take another step into a space where I didn't want to be, but I was on the course anyway. And someone started talking about neuro-linguistic programming and what it actually meant. And I was starting to understand a little bit more. And to be honest, I thought it sounded cool. Do you know what I mean? You tell someone that, hey, yeah, do you know what? I've learned a little bit of neuro-linguistic programming. It's the sort of thing you just throw into a conversation to impress people. Maybe just me, but that's actually how it worked for me. But I looked into it deeper and deeper and deeper. And I found that what I was missing was that clarity, that pathway to success. And as a result, I found myself on a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner course, an NLP practitioner course, something that I'm sure many of you have either done, thinking about doing, or maybe even like me, training them and delivering and helping other people on that journey. So I took that first step into NLP by becoming a practitioner. At the same time, I also became a licensed practitioner of the tool I mentioned earlier, a motivational map, where I could discover what really motivated me and then also use that to help find out what it is that motivated the people that I worked with and the teams that I worked with. And I did these two things together. Then I moved back into my work life, back into all the usual day-to-day stuff, knowing now that I had a well-formed outcome. I had a clarity of path. clarity of path. Yeah, I did. I actually had an understanding that what I wanted at some point in the future was to be running my own coaching and training business. Back then, it seemed like a long, long way off, but I had an understanding of where I wanted to go. And then suddenly I was able to start tracking a path towards it. And I was using my NLP skills, and I was using my motivational maps. And I was then moving towards becoming a master practitioner of NLP, and followed that journey. So I was a master practitioner, started my coaching business, hypnosis practitioner, timeline therapy practitioner, moved into a trainer of motivational maps, and then, of course, a trainer of NLP. So I'm now one of only 2 people globally that are able to certify coaches, consultants, HR consultants and managers in NLP and also motivational maps. So that kind of introduces me and my history and my journey to standing here now and presenting at the NLP Global Summit. And throughout my time, along with my co-trainer, and we've both actually been training many, many people to use both motivational maps and NLP. And the one piece of information that we start every course, and I'm sure there's loads of people on this call who are fully aware of where I'm going with this, in terms of knowing what it is that you want. And that's going to be the basis of the presentation I'm now going to deliver for you. But there's going to be something underneath it. There's a theme that's going to run all the way underneath it, that knowing what you want and getting absolute clarity of what that looks like, what that feels like, what that sounds like, and being able to visualize and sense exactly what it is that you want. That's fantastic, yeah? And we all go through that process, and we reach our goals, and we move towards the next step, and we push ourselves, and understanding that actually we can just lead on to the next step. This is wonderful. Often when working with clients, often those clients being new to NLP, or maybe not even studying NLP at all, they're just simply our clients that we're helping them shift from one mindset to another. We start with our vision. We start with understanding what a well-formed outcome is for our clients. Now, for those of us who've been through the NLP journey, some of what I'm going to talk about is clear. We understand it. We've been there. But it's sometimes more difficult to translate that when working with clients who haven't actually done any NLP. So I'm going to walk our way through it. So I'm just going to share my screen real briefly. Excuse me just while I do the necessary clicking of buttons, etc. So what I want to talk about today is, what is the fuel behind the vision? What is it that drives us forward? And I've called the presentation Motivating Your Well-Formed Outcomes. Because once we have our well-formed outcomes, it's almost like having that wonderful sports car sat on your drive. We've got to fuel it correctly in order to make it work. We know once it's up and running, we're going to be achieving the dream of the country roads, or whatever analogy you want to swap that for if you're not a driver or into your sports cars. But once we understand what it is we want, we need to get the right fuel on board. So let's have a look. Let me get the right buttons clicking. So here we go. So the importance of clarity. I've already mentioned it. I've used my own story there to help put into words. Sometimes many people, me included at one stage, we drift through life. We feel that actually there's things beyond our control, people outside of us that have an influence on us as to where we'll be, what we're going to be doing, and how successful we're going to be. So the importance of clarity, creating your vision for what you want, is a huge part of the NLP journey. Now, well-formed outcomes. I'm not going to be training here, but I am also going to just be touching on each of the 9 points throughout the well-formed outcome process. Just as a reminder for some, and for those of you who haven't looked at well-formed outcomes in NLP, it's a great place to start. So if you think about what it is that you want, what are those 9 steps? Well, first of all, it needs to be stated in positive terms. So many clients that I work with, and I'm sure it's a common experience, when asked, what is it that you really want? the first list we tend to get back is a whole list of the things that people don't want. I once asked somebody, what is it that you want in terms of financial freedom for you? And I gave it some thought, and they said, I don't want to struggle to pay the bills at the end of each month. I said, okay, and what else? I want to keep my head above water. Oh, okay, and what else? I don't know. I don't want to feel like I'm always struggling. And you can hear that pattern of speech there, can't you? Just telling us what they don't want instead. So let's state it in positive terms. I want to achieve financial freedom. A little bit of away from there in terms of freedom, of course. I want to feel abundant. I want to have wealth. I want to be able to enjoy the things that money brings me. So state in positive terms, and you can relate that from money to health, to fitness, to relationships, to your career. I want to achieve X, whatever that is, in positive terms. Make sure that the outcome is in your control. Now, I alluded earlier, and deliberately so in my story, when I described how I felt there were other people that would have the final decision as to where I would end up in my career. As soon as I realized that is, how's that going to work? How can I can positively influence the people around me, but if my goal depends on someone else making that decision, then it kind of loses my ability to control that situation. So ensure that the outcome is in your control. Specific, making sure we're specific. So if we were to say, I want to lose weight. Okay, so what weight would you like to be, positive terms, in terms of actually a specific amount? Amount sounds difficult when I'm saying in weight terms, doesn't it? But what weight do you want to be, and by when? So be very specific. Sensory-based. Now, a lot of NLP, the predicate terms we use, the representational system, just to use a couple of bits of NLP jargon in there. Sensory-based. So what will you see, hear, and feel once you've achieved your goal? What will it look like? What will it feel like? What sounds will be present? So as we just state our goal, we'll be able to say what you can see. I can see myself walking down a lovely beach with the feel of the sand in between my toes and the sound of the waves, knowing that I'm on holiday, celebrating I've achieved this massive business deal that's brought me all the wealth that I desired. So ensure that it includes all the senses. And in context. So in context is similar to us thinking, well, actually in one area of our life, we can achieve this massively, but what effect is it going to have on other areas of the life? And do we want to be the same person when we're achieving our financial goals as when we're in our relationship? So just think about the context in which you are stating your well-formed outcomes. Just a quick reminder here, I'm going through these in order just to reframe or to frame us ready for the rest of the presentation. I'm not training you all in terms of your well-formed outcomes, because either you already know, or you're on the journey to finding out, or actually this is going to make you curious to go and find out some more. You have access to the resources, and we all have resources inside us. Sometimes we just need a change of state in order for that to be accessed. But let's ensure that we can actually find either people who have done what we want to achieve or are on the road to finding out where that could be. We actually could see that there's people who could help us, go and search them out, model them. So ensure that we have access to the resources. Preserves existing benefits. By that, what we're suggesting is that if I get this, that doesn't mean I've got to lose that. Okay, so to use the terms again in terms of money. So if I go searching for my £1 million income, does that mean that I'm going to lose all my existing relationships by just being so focused on one thing that I'm going to lose other things? Ecological fits into that as well. So by achieving certain aspects of my outcome, am I going to affect negatively those around me? What is that first step? What is the very first thing you need to do? So for me, when I first set a well-formed outcome following my NLP practitioner course, I kind of forgot what it was, to be honest. And then I found it recently. And I was reading it and realized that I was stating in positive terms of where I wanted to be, who I wanted to be with, and the sort of work that I wanted to do. And it was about becoming an NLP trainer. So I was that was written in my goal to become an NLP trainer, or rather than becoming an NLP trainer, I was an NLP trainer. And I was describing what I could see, hear, and feel around me. And I knew within that goal that as I read down, I would find the first step right at the end. And the first step was, back then I was an NLP practitioner, and defining the first step was, and it all started when I took the challenge, or took on the decision to do my master practitioner training. And a year later, after writing that goal, I did do my master practitioner training. That led to all the other bits and pieces I talked about earlier. So here we are. We have our well-formed outcome, and that's fantastic, yeah? Once we've defined that first step, we've got to fuel it. We've got to do something with it. We've got to make it happen. Now, I've worked with many clients that we've reached this stage and we've got a well-formed outcome, and it's brilliantly written. And for some people, some clients have been fantastic at this wonderful imagery and visualization of all the things that they're going to achieve. And I revisit them sometime later, and we're still at that point. We still haven't moved forward. And that's what I want to really dig into for the remainder of the presentation, is just to talk about what is it deep down that really, really drives you? What is it that motivates you to take action? There's a lot of conversation and talk and stuff that you could pick out linking motivation to your values. And with your values, certainly within NLP, we know that the values are the things that really drive you. They're almost like the guidelines in which you operate your life. Yeah, and if we go against your values, then we tend to move away from those things, and we do less of those things. And a similar thing with motivation. If it's something naturally motivates you, you are drawn towards it. You tend to get more involved in those things that make you feel like you want to do more of it. And the thing about motivation, of course, is it doesn't suddenly pop into the air. We do something, we get a good feeling from it, and then we become motivated to do it again. So what are that I'm really talking about? Well, let's consider all the different things that could be. Things is a very vague way of putting it, but through the motivational maps I use, there's 9 different motivators, and I want to touch on each one. And I invite you, as I'm talking and describing these as we go through, just to consider to yourself, which of these are most important to me? So each one has 3 different aspects that I want to just focus on briefly on each one. And I'm not even going to name them. I'm just going to leave them to you, just to allow it to sink in, and just think to yourself, actually, if I've got my well-formed outcome, what needs to be present for me to feel motivated to make it happen? So the first one I've got up on screen here. Are you after public recognition? Do you want to have that respect from other people, whether that's your network group, whether it is your team, whether it's on a bigger, broader scale? Do you want as many people as possible to know who you are, what you do, and why it is that you are special? That social esteem, knowing that you can walk into a room and everyone notices that you're there, and you enjoy that and you get motivated by it and you want to do more of it. Is that you? Or maybe you find yourself in situations where you're just a little bit concerned about what it's going to mean in terms of security and safety. Yeah, are you the type of person who's motivated to take action once you know that everything is in place, knowing that there's a contingency plan, and knowing that actually there's a specific routine to follow? And maybe you also, within that, you're the type of person who enjoys that clear and concise communication. Yeah, there's no ambiguity. We know exactly what we want. But you could be somebody who just loves being around other people. Do you strive for doing work where it just brings you in contact with lots and lots of different people, so you can develop friendships as well as making colleagues, acquaintances through your business, that actually this becomes really fulfilling in itself? So as you're moving towards your goal, moving towards your well-formed outcome, along the way, you're developing your network and you've got a sense of belonging and bringing people into you. If that's you, maybe this is what motivates you and should be present in your well-formed outcome. Or maybe you're the type of person who likes to step up and take control. And by control, I don't mean in a manipulative way. I simply mean to make things happen. I once had a client who said to me, do you know what? Every situation I find myself in, without any effort, without any specific targeting, I just naturally seem to be the one who takes control. She gave me an example where she joined a local football team and she didn't know anyone else in the team. And by her third match, she'd been selected as captain. Not because she was overpowering, not because she was dictatorial in any way. Just naturally, people would listen to her because of the way she would effortlessly take control of the situation and make things happen. Maybe control is not important, but certainly the sense of competition. Yeah, as soon as somebody says, I can achieve X, you think to yourself, well, not only can I achieve X, I can actually achieve X plus. So you're looking to be able to move up the ladder in terms of beating the competition. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's good to have competition. So you may be the sort of person who will be motivated by setting specific targets, milestones to achieve your well-formed outcome. Or maybe you're one of those people who, as long as there's an opportunity to learn, and I think on a presentation or on a summit like this, probably got most of the room who are very keen to extend their knowledge, to have a level of learning, development, an opportunity to then share that knowledge with as many people as possible. And within that, you might be the sort of person who's motivated by specializing in a certain area. We all have read the books, haven't we? And there's arguments one way or the other that you should niche your coaching. And then there's just as many people who would say be broad with your coaching. But specializing in a certain niche, you might be motivated by that. And as we know, there's no right or wrong, it's just different. So is this what motivates you and will drive your well-formed outcome? Well, maybe, again, there's an element of competition coming in this one as well. But maybe it's all about material satisfaction. Maybe it's about having the best car. Maybe it's about having the biggest house. Maybe it's about the pound note figure. Whichever one it is, if you are driven by those things, that's what motivates you. Embrace it, accept it. I've worked with many people who, when we're talking about this particular motivator, there's a little ab reaction at the beginning because we don't want to see, particularly here in the UK, we don't want to be seen as money is that important. Well, guess what? It really is. And it's okay to say, actually, the one thing I want is a huge bank balance because it will allow me the freedom to do the things that I want to do elsewhere in my life. So it's okay to want the best things in life. And if that is in your well-formed outcome, then make sure if it's what motivates you, go for it. Yeah, and go for it bigger and shinier. Or maybe, like so many of us who set up our own business, that we're looking to increase our freedom to be able to open up the amount of choice that we have, what we do, when we do it, who we do it with, and how long we do it for. So being in this room, recording this presentation for someone like me, where this motivator is quite high, it took me a long time to be able to just simply get in front of this camera and record, because it just means that I've got to be in the same place for a period of time and there's nothing else I can do. So it kind of, battle with that slightly, but once you get going, of course, everything's fine. The other thing about this motivator is knowing that things need to be efficient and slick. So it's all about making sure we're not wasting any time. So if that's important to you, it will certainly feature in your well-formed outcome because it will motivate you to make things happen. And this, to me, well, I'm preaching to the converted, I think, when I announce this or talk about this particular motivator. We want to do, it's a clue there of what one of mine is, those that have this motivator present in their well-formed outcomes and in anything they do, is as long as it has meaning and purpose, as long as what I'm doing is worthwhile, and probably most importantly, that I'm making a difference. Now, it could be making a difference to my own life. It could be making a difference to your life. It could be making a difference to the whole world. But as long as we know that what we are doing We are moving things forward. So if your well-formed outcome doesn't include making a difference and doing things that are worthwhile, yet you are driven by this motivator, you may find that there's some conflict within there. You may find it difficult to move forward. And that's a key link between all of these. Well, it could be that you are all about coming up with new things. It could be about innovation. So in your well-formed outcome, have you got, if you are motivated in this way, have you got opportunities to be the first at? Have you got opportunities to keep exploring new ways of doing things? Are you thinking about change on a regular basis? Are you open to change? Are you wanting to be the one who blazes a trail, who wants to be the first at moving forward and coming up with these ideas and have the finger on the pulse? If that's you, ensure that's part of your well-formed outcome. So I've kind of discreetly described to you the 9 motivators that are present within a motivational map that I'm linking to the NLP well-formed outcomes. So once we know what motivates us, once we know what it is that really drives us and then we link that to our well-formed outcome, it will help. It helps me, it helps many of the people that I've trained, and it definitely helps my clients, because sitting with somebody and saying to them, please write me a vision, write me a well-formed outcome. If they haven't been through that process, I'm not suggesting that that's exactly how I do it, but there's some situations where writing a vision can be the first time a client has really focused down as to, well, what is it I want? If we can help that individual discover what it is that drives them at a motivational level, knowing what needs to be present in the well-formed outcome, then there's an opportunity for them to use that as a framework to then apply the other 9 steps of well-formed outcomes, knowing not only is it going to be something that is specific in the right context and all the other areas of the nine key aspects of a well-formed outcome, we know that it's going to highly likely we're going to be driven to make it happen. So what is motivational maps? I've talked about it throughout the call. Just a quick opportunity at the end of my presentation here, just to suggest that if you're interested, please do get in contact with me. Because if we use a motivational map, it's a quick 10-minute online questionnaire that will allow you to get clarity of which of those 9 motivators is the top motivator for you right now, right through to the one motivator at the bottom, which is the least motivating, and anything in between. And also, what's interesting and the difference between measuring motivation as opposed to, let's say, personality, is your personality is relatively fixed, relatively so, and does get changed by certain aspects and contexts. Your motivation, on the other hand, well, that changes on a daily basis, particularly in the global situation we have now. If you think about the last 2 or 3 years, pandemic and all the other stuff that's gone on, what used to motivate us pre-pandemic will probably be very different for many, many people post-pandemic. We don't have to wait for a pandemic to be able to use a motivational map, by the way. It could just be a career change. It could be a relationship change. It could just simply be a desire to do something different. So I use motivational maps with my clients almost to get that first session before we even meet. The information I get from the motivational map is as good as that, a first session before we even meet. It takes about 10 minutes to complete online. Client gets a copy, I get a copy, and then we sit down, do a debrief, and off we go on a coaching journey. And I train other coaches, consultants, HR practitioners, many, many different types of people in using the motivational map to be able to build a business around, as I have, combining it with NLP. So I invite you to get in contact with me, and I've put your next steps on here, should you choose to do so. It's been wonderful being able to speak to you all today. But if you would like to know more and want to complete a map, then please do get in contact with me, because I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. If you're curious now about how would you include motivational maps within your coaching practice, and maybe considering, well, what would it be like to become a licensed practitioner? And if you're already an NLP practitioner, there are only about 60, 70 people globally that combine maps and NLP. So that could be another benefit for you as you're going out and working with teams, individuals. So get in contact with me. I shall also quite happily spend some time with you talking about how to use maps with NLP to be able to instigate that deep change within your clients. So there's my contact details up on screen. Please do get in contact with me. I'd love to hear from you. You've got my email on there. Please come and follow me on LinkedIn. Just look me up on Paul Ward. That's my name. That's kind of a clue. Look me up on LinkedIn. Follow me, connect with me, and I'll follow you back. Also, my business on there, Blacktop Coaching. Maybe on another presentation, I'll quite happily tell you about all the reasons why I've called it Blacktop Coaching rather than just simply I wear a black top, because there's deeper reasons to that. And my website's on there as well. So thank you once again. I'm just going to stop the old share there so I can come back to the full screen. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me today. I hope that's been insightful. As I said right at the beginning, it wasn't about training you in well-formed outcomes, or I'm happy to do that, of course. It's about seeing the well-formed outcomes, creating a vision of clarity for you, understanding what motivates you. And if we can use that as the fuel to your well-formed outcome, there's a greater chance of us being able to take that first step real quickly so we can move towards what it is you want as quickly as possible and achieve your well-formed outcomes. Thanks once again for listening. My name's Paul Ward, and I look forward to hearing from you.